My name is Sophia Chen, and at my sister's birthday party last month, she stood up in front of our entire family and said, "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate with me. It means so much to have successful people in my life, unlike some family members who just aren't really ambitious." She looked directly at me while saying it. I was sitting there in my simple sweater, the underachiever sister who works a mysterious office job while she was a rising star surgeon. What nobody knew was that hidden in my phone was an email that would change everything. 30 minutes later, my phone rang during dessert. My CEO's voice cut through the birthday celebration. "Sophia, I know it's Sunday evening, but I couldn't wait until tomorrow. The board just approved it unanimously. You're our new VP of Strategic Operations. The promotion comes with a $250,000 salary, stock options worth millions, and you'll be the youngest executive in our company's 50-year history." The silence that followed as I put the call on speaker was deafening. My family's faces went from smug superiority to complete shock as they realized the unambitious sister had just become the highest paid person at that table. If you're watching this, hit that like button and subscribe because this story gets absolutely wild. Drop your location in the comments. I want to know where my fellow quiet achievers are watching from. This is about a family who spent years treating me like I lacked drive, not knowing I was quietly building a business empire that would eclipse all their achievements combined. Growing up in the Chen household meant living under a microscope of achievement. My parents, Dr. William Chen and Professor Margaret Chen, had built their lives around visible, prestigious success. Dad was a renowned cardiologist. Mom was a tenured economics professor at USC. And excellence wasn't just expected. It was the minimum acceptable standard. My older sister Victoria was their crown jewel. Harvard undergraduate, Johns Hopkins Medical School, surgical residency at Mayo Clinic. She was everything our parents had dreamed of, brilliant, driven, and following a path everyone could understand and admire. Then there was me. While Victoria was memorizing medical textbooks, I was fascinated by how businesses operated. While she was studying for the MCAT, I was reading case studies about corporate strategy. While she applied to medical schools, I chose business administration at a solid but unremarkable state university. "Sophia always takes the easier path," Victoria would say during family dinners. "Business school isn't exactly rocket science like medicine." The subtle digs were constant. When Victoria published research papers, the family celebrated. When I made Dean's List, it was barely acknowledged. When she got into her competitive residency program, there was a family party. When I graduated summa cum laude, dinner conversation focused on Victoria's latest surgical rotation. "Business is fine," my father would say diplomatically, "but it's not exactly saving lives like Victoria." My mother was more direct. "Sophia, when are you going to find something more ... substantial? Victoria is making a real difference in the world." The message was clear. Victoria was the ambitious one, the achiever, the daughter who mattered. I was just ... there. What my family didn't understand was that I wasn't just doing business. I was systematically learning how to identify failing companies, restructure their operations, and turn them into profitable enterprises. My first job at Marine Consulting wasn't glamorous, but it was educational in ways they couldn't imagine. I started as a junior analyst, but I quickly distinguished myself by developing turnaround strategies that saved clients millions. While Victoria was learning to perform surgeries, I was learning to perform corporate surgery, cutting away inefficiencies, and rebuilding companies from the inside out. Within 2 years, I was leading restructuring projects for Fortune 500 companies. Within 3 years, I was personally responsible for saving over 10,000 jobs through strategic reorganizations. But when I tried to share these achievements with my family, they were met with polite disinterest. "That's nice, dear," my mother would say before immediately pivoting to Victoria's latest medical conference presentation. The breakthrough came when I successfully turned around a failing tech company that was hemorrhaging $50 million annually. My strategic restructuring not only saved the company, but made it profitable within 80 months. resulting in a $200 million acquisition by Google.my CEO. Rebecca Martinez was so impressed she offered me something unprecedented. Sophia, I want you to head our new strategic operations division. You'll have complete autonomy to choose which companies we take on, and you'll get equity in every successful turnaround. At 27, I became the youngest division head in company history, managing a team of 40 consultants and handling projects worth hundreds of millions. My strategies are being studied in business schools, and I was being headhunted by every major consulting firm with offers that would set me up for life. But when I tried to explain this to my family, they just heard business consulting and assumed I was helping small companies with their accounting. Victoria's 30th birthday party was planned as a celebration of her achievements, and by extension, our family's success. She had just been accepted into a prestigious cardiac surgery fellowship, and my parents spared no expense creating the perfect celebration. "This is what we're proud of," my father said while reviewing the guest list. "Victoria represents everything we hoped for when we came to America." The guest list read like a medical directory: surgeons, researchers, department heads, and their accomplished spouses. I was the only person there without an MD, PhD, or some other advanced degree that my family considered real achievement. "Sophia, you'll sit at table 7. My mother informed me while reviewing the seating chart. With Victoria's medical school friends, try to keep up with the conversation." The dismissal was casual but cutting. Even at a family celebration, I was positioned as the least accomplished person in the room. Meanwhile, I was quietly managing the most successful quarter in my division's history. We had just completed 3 major turnarounds simultaneously, saving over $500 million in combined value for our clients. I was being featured in Harvard Business Review and had been invited to speak at the World Economic Forum. But none of this mattered to my family because it wasn't medicine. "What exactly do you do again?" one of Victoria's surgeon friends asked me during cocktails. "Victoria mentioned you work in business." "I help companies restructure their operations to become more efficient and profitable," I explained. "Oh, like accounting?" she replied with a patronizing smile. "That's practical." The conversation moved on to Victoria's research on minimally invasive cardiac procedures while I stood there, the family afterthought at my sister's celebration. 2 weeks before Victoria's birthday party, Rebecca Martinez called me into her office with news that would change everything. "Sophia, the board has been watching your work closely," she announced. "We're restructuring the entire company around strategic operations, and we want you to lead the transformation as our youngest VP in company history." The offer was staggering. Vice President of Strategic Operations, $250,000 base salary plus equity that could be worth tens of millions, and complete authority over our most important client relationships. "There's just one consideration," Rebecca continued. "The board wants to announce this at the International Business Summit next week, which I believe conflicts with the family event, Victoria's birthday party. The timing was impossibly perfect and terrible." "I need an answer by Monday," Rebecca said. "This opportunity represents the future of corporate consulting, and frankly, you're the only person qualified to lead it. Don't let anyone convince you that your work isn't world-changing, because it absolutely is." That weekend, I agonized over the decision: accept the promotion and potentially miss my sister's celebration, confirming to my family that I really was the selfish, unambitious daughter they believed me to be, or turn down the opportunity of a lifetime to maintain family harmony. I thought about all the times my achievements have been dismissed as just business, all the conversations that have been redirected to Victoria's medical career, all the ways I'd been made to feel like my path was somehow less valuable than traditional prestige. On Sunday morning, I made my decision. I would attend the party, but I would also accept the promotion. If my family couldn't value my success, at least I would stop hiding it from myself. Victoria's birthday party was everything my parents had envisioned: elegant, sophisticated, and filled with accomplished professionals celebrating their golden child. The venue was a private dining room at an exclusive country club, With 50 guests representing the cream of a medical establishment, I had chosen a simple black sweater and slacks, knowing that anything too expensive would be criticized as inappropriate for someone without a real career. Even so, I overheard my aunt commenting, "Poor Sophia, she just doesn't have Victoria's drive for excellence, does she?" During the cocktail hour, I found myself relegated to conversations with spouses who asked the same patronizing questions. "So Sophia, still doing the business thing? When are you going to find something more challenging like your sister?" The worst part was watching Victoria bask in well-deserved attention while simultaneously witnessing how my family positioned me as the cautionary tale, the daughter who had chosen an easy path over meaningful achievement. "Sophia's very practical," my mother would explain to guests, the word practical carrying an undertone of disappointment. "She works in business consulting, but it's not really a career like Victoria's." My phone had been buzzing all day with messages from colleagues, congratulating me on the promotion announcement, which had been leaked to business publications that morning. Forbes had run a headline, 27-year-old Sophia Chen becomes youngest VP at Meridian Consulting, revolutionizing corporate turnarounds. But I kept it silenced, not wanting to detract from Victoria's special day. The dinner was an exercise in endurance. I sat at my assigned table, listening to toast after toast celebrating Victoria's achievements, her dedication, her bright future saving lives. Then Victoria herself stood up for what was supposed to be a thank you speech. Victoria stood up, radiant, in her designer dress, holding a champagne glass with the confidence of someone who had never doubted her place in the world. "I want to thank everyone who made tonight possible," she began, her voice carrying across the private dining room. "My parents who sacrificed everything to give us opportunities. My colleagues from Mayo Clinic who pushed me to be better every day. My mentors who've shown me what it means to dedicate your life to something meaningful." I smiled and applauded, genuinely happy for my sister despite everything. "I also want to acknowledge my little sister Sophia," Victoria continued, and my heart lifted slightly. Maybe she would finally recognize my achievements. Sophia has always been different from our family. While I was studying medicine, she chose business. While I was learning to save lives, she was, well, doing whatever it is business people do. The crowd chuckled politely, and I felt my face begin to burn. I know some people might think business is easier than medicine, and honestly, it probably is. Sophia's never really been the ambitious type like the rest of our family. She's more comfortable with simpler challenges. The laughter that followed was gentle but devastating. 50 accomplished professionals absorbed the message that I was the family underachiever, the sister who lacked the drive for real success. But I want everyone to know that Sophia is perfectly happy with her choices, and we support her even if she's not really ambitious like the rest of us. So thank you, Sophia, for being you. I felt completely humiliated as guests turned to look at me with mixture of pity and condescension. My parents were smiling proudly at Victoria, not seeming to notice how devastating her words were. That's when my phone rang in the moment of silence following Victoria's speech. Rebecca Martinez's ringtone cut through the air like a thunderbolt. Every head in the dining room turned toward me as I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking with humiliation and rage. "I'm sorry," I mumbled, starting to decline the call. "Take it?" Victoria said from where she stood, her voice carrying across the quiet room. "It's probably worth calling about some small business problem." More polite laughter. With 50 pairs of eyes on me and nowhere to hide, I answered the phone. "Sophia!" Rebecca's voice was jubilant and loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I know it's Sunday evening, but I couldn't wait until tomorrow. The board just made it official. You're our youngest VP in company history." My heart stopped. This was it, the moment that would change everything. "Rebecca, I'm actually at my sister's birthday party right now," I said quietly, trying to maintain some dignity. "Even better. Put me on speaker. This news is too incredible to keep quiet, and your family should hear about this amazing achievement." I looked around the silent dining room. Victoria was still standing with her champagne glass, her confident expression beginning to falter. My parents looked confused. 50 guests were staring at me with growing curiosity. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Rebecca," my voice barely audible. "Sophia Chen, you just became the youngest VP in our company's 50-year history, and your work has revolutionized how we approach corporate restructuring. Put me on speaker right now." With trembling hands, I switched to speakerphone. Rebecca's voice filled the exclusive dining room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rebecca Martinez, CEO of Meridian Consulting. I'm calling to inform Sophia that she's just been promoted to Vice President of Strategic Operations, making her the youngest VP in our company's history. The position comes with a $250,000 base salary, significant equity, and she'd be running our most important division." The silence was deafening. Victoria slowly lowered her champagne glass, her face cycling through confusion, shock, and something approaching awe. "Sophia's strategic restructuring methods have saved our clients over $2 billion in the past 2 years alone. Her work has been featured in Harvard Business Review, and she's been invited to speak at the World Economic Forum about the future of corporate transformation." I watched my parents' faces transform from confusion to stunned disbelief. I also want to mention that Sophia was just named to Forbes 30 Under 30 in the business category, and 3 Fortune 500 companies have tried to poach her with 8-figure offers. She's not just ambitious, she's revolutionizing an entire industry. Rebecca paused, letting the words sink in. "Sophia, you're not just doing business, you're saving companies, preserving jobs, and reshaping how corporate America operates. We couldn't be prouder to have you leading our future." When Rebecca finally hung up, the private dining room remained silent for what felt like an eternity. 50 accomplished professionals stared at me, the family underachiever who had just been revealed as the most successful person in the room. Victoria slowly sat down, still holding her champagne glass, her face pale. "Sophia ... I had no idea ... "Of course you didn't," I said, standing up for the first time in my life with complete confidence. "None of you did. Because none of you ever asked what I actually do." My mother was the first to speak. "Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us about any of this?" "I tried," I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Every time I mentioned my work, you called it just business. Every achievement was dismissed as less important than Victoria's medical career. You made it clear that my success didn't matter to this family." My father looked stricken. "Beauty, we thought you were just helping small companies with basic problems. I'm restructuring Fortune 500 companies and saving billions of dollars," I said calmly. "I'm preserving thousands of jobs and revolutionizing corporate strategy." But you were so focused on traditional prestige that you couldn't see the value in what I was building. The birthday guests were beginning to murmur among themselves, processing the dramatic reversal they had just witnessed. The woman who had been publicly dismissed minutes earlier was now revealed as the most accomplished person at the celebration. Victoria finally found her voice. "Sophia, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought you were just doing basic business consulting." "I am doing business consulting," I said gently. "Consulting that's worth more than every medical degree in this room combined." I turned to address the room, my voice carrying the confidence I'd never allowed myself to show in front of my family. "For those who don't know me well, I'm Sophia Chen. I'm 27 years old, and I've spent the last 5 years developing strategies that save failing companies and preserve American jobs." The room is completely silent now. "I've restructured operations for companies you all know and use every day. I've saved over $2 billion in shareholder value and preserved over 15,000 jobs through strategic reorganization." I looked directly at Victoria. "I suppose every family needs someone to show them what ambition looks like in the modern economy." After the party ended and most guests had left, my immediate family gathered in the country club's private lounge. The atmosphere was tense, with Victoria still in her party dress and my parents looking shell-shocked. "Why didn't you tell us how successful you were?" my mother asked, her voice small. I did tell you, I replied. I told you about every promotion, every major project, every recognition. But you were so focused on Victoria's path that you couldn't see the value in mine. We thought you were just working at some consulting company, my father said weakly. I'm working at a consulting company. A consulting company that shapes how major corporations operate. A consulting company that's worth $3 billion and growing. Because of the work I do, Victoria finally spoke up. Sophia, I'm so sorry about what I said up there. I had no idea how accomplished you were. I should have asked more questions, should have supported you better. You weren't malicious, I said honestly. You were just reflecting the family's values. The problem wasn't you personally, it was the assumption that only certain types of careers matter. My mother was crying now. We just wanted prestige for you. We thought medicine, academia, those were the paths to respect. Mom, I have respect, I said gently. I'm respected by CEOs, board members, and business leaders around the world. I'm building something that will outlast all of us. Why wasn't that enough? The question hung in the air because we all knew the answer. It wasn't about respect or success. It was about conformity to their vision of what achievement should look like. What happens now? My father asked. Now I continue building my career without worrying about whether it meets your definition of ambition, I said. I've spent too many years hiding my achievements because they didn't fit your expectations. Will you forgive us? Victoria asked, her voice breaking. The question surprised me because it revealed how much she was finally understanding. There's nothing to forgive, I said, but there's a lot to learn. About my work, about the business world, about the fact that success comes in many forms. 6 months later, I was settled into my corner office on the 40th floor of a downtown skyscraper, overlooking the city where I was reshaping corporate America. My team had grown to 150 consultants, and we had just closed our largest deal ever, a $1 billion restructuring project that would save 25,000 jobs. The Forbes cover story had led to speaking engagements at business schools, advisory positions, with startups and investment opportunities that were building generational wealth. I was literally changing how companies operate, and finally, my family was beginning to understand what that meant. Victoria called me every week now, genuinely interested in my work and asking questions that showed she was trying to bridge our different worlds. She had started following business news and would send me articles about corporate restructuring, proud to tell her medical colleagues that her sister was quoted alongside industry legends. I saw you mentioned in the Wall Street Journal about the new efficiency standards, she said during one call. I didn't understand all the business details, but I understood that you're changing how companies work. My parents' transformation was slower but profound. They had framed the Forbes cover and displayed it prominently in their living room, right next to Victoria's medical school diploma. My father had even started reading business publications, trying to understand the industry that had made their daughter successful. I saw an article about your company saving that manufacturing plant, he said during one of our weekly calls. I finally understand. You're not just doing business, you're saving people's livelihoods. The breakthrough came when my mother visited me at my office for the first time. Standing in my conference room, looking out at the corporate headquarters that were implementing my strategies, she finally grasped the magnitude of what I had built. Sophia, I owe you the biggest apology of my life, she said quietly. We were so focused on the success we understood that we couldn't see the success you were creating. You don't need to apologize for wanting what you thought was best, I replied. You just need to understand that the world is changing and the most important work often happens in ways you don't expect. Your grandmother would be so proud, she said, tears in her eyes. She always said you had a special mind for seeing solutions others couldn't. That evening, we had dinner at a restaurant where the server recognized me from a recent Business Week interview. As my mother watched strangers treat me with the respect and recognition she had never shown, I saw her finally understand who I had become. I want to learn about your work, she said over dessert. really learn, not just pretend to understand. Will you teach me about this world you've built? It was the first time in my life that my mother had asked me to teach her anything. On the 1-year anniversary of Victoria's birthday party, our family gathered again, this time to celebrate my promotion to senior vice president and my engagement. To Marcus Thompson, a brilliant entrepreneur I had met while restructuring his tech startup. Victoria was there, now genuinely proud and supportive. When she raised her glass for a toast, her words were completely different from the year before. To my sister Sophia, she said, who taught our family that ambition comes in many forms. While I save lives one patient at a time, she saves entire companies and all the families who depend on them. As I looked around the table at my family, imperfect, learning, but finally seeing me for who I really was, I realized that the greatest victory wasn't proving them wrong. It was helping them understand that there was never anything wrong with my ambition in the first place. Sometimes the people who love you most are the ones who understand you least. But with patience, success, and one perfectly timed phone call, even the most traditional family can learn to see the value in a different kind of achievement. Have you ever felt dismissed by the people who were supposed to believe in you most? Sometimes our biggest supporters are the ones who never knew they needed to support us in the first place. Drop your stories in the comments below. And if this resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about building success on your own terms. Remember, your worth isn't determined by other people's ability to recognize. Sometimes you have to succeed so loudly that they can't ignore you anymore. And sometimes all it takes is one phone call to change everything.